Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut 2, and hope you'll like this video and subscribe. As we get closer to the end of the baseball season, thank you guys for not showing up this year. But there are 20 burning questions, not burning in a bad way, but just sizzling hot, interesting questions to talk about that we will be discussing here about Major League Baseball's stretch run. Here's an article from usatoday.com. I would mention that I will be doing live streams at some point, again, on all the channels. On this channel, on the Baseball Hut, Baseball 2, and the Football Hut. You need to check out the Football Hut. I do a lot of stuff on the New York Giants. So if you're a Giants fan, I'll put the link in the description. So if you want, you can subscribe to me there. We're doing live streams there at some point. But here we go. Here we go. This is from Bob Nightingale. Number 1. What is Shohei Ohtani's future? Ohtani has yet to publicly declare his intentions, but those familiar with his thinking believe that he could shut it down in the next 10 days and undergo Tommy John surgery to repair his torn UCL. The Angels begin a 7-game homestand on Tuesday, so it makes sense to play through that and then announce that he's done for the year. Tommy John surgery eliminating the possibility of pitching in 24, but assuring that he will be healthy enough to be a DH. Now, we saw he'd done this once before. He didn't play a full season in 2019. Okay. And we know that Bryce Harper did not get back on the field until May, and that was like an early thing, and he kind of struggled. Where will Ohtani be? This is number 2 question. Where will Ohtani be playing in 2024? He hasn't given up the idea of staying with the Angels. Plans, I wouldn't stay with the Angels. If I were him, get the hell out of Anaheim. Because that owner, he's nuts. They make all these trades and then they got rid of everybody. He still wants the largest contract in baseball history, or who doesn't? Exceeding the $430 million deal that teammate Mike Trout received, although it was $360 million in new money. But his torn UCL certainly has tempered expectations. Simply, teams now are viewing him as an elite power hitter, and if he can return to pitching 25, it'll be a bonus. New contract will certainly have incentives and bonuses if he becomes a pitcher again, and surely an opt-out. If the bidding goes over $500 million, the Dodgers, Giants, Padres, and perhaps the Seattle Mariners are the strongest contenders to swoop in. While he was thrilled the Angels kept him at the trade deadline and made moves to go for it, he couldn't help but scratch his head wondering why they wouldn't turn around and conduct a garage sale. I would mention he did not play well. He didn't pitch well. Obviously, he was dealing with the injury to his arm, but he did not pitch well. So, the betting favorite continues to be the Dodgers, who are as intrigued by the brand as much as the player, while Ohtani will sit back and listen to the sales pitches. While you talk about a guy in the driver's seat. Do the Angels now regret holding on to Ohtani? Well, it says not really, but they should have moved. Now they're going to get absolutely nothing for him. But you know what? This owner is a joke. Artie Moreno's a joke, and he deserves nothing. Deserves nothing, folks. All right. Who's the most disappointing team in baseball this year? Well, here in New York, the Mets are. Certainly there are plenty of contenders between the Mets, Yankees, Cardinals, White Sox, and the San Diego Padres. According to Bob Nightingale, he says the Padres. They're the most underachieving team in baseball history, embarrassing themselves with the riches of talent only to have a record slightly better than the Washington Nationals. If the Padres had the heart and drive of the Philadelphia Phillies, they would have won 110 games this year. Instead, they play with all of the passion of spring training. That's true. You talk about a team that doesn't, this is just another word for I don't give a shit. They don't care. There's no sense of urgency with the Padres. What happens to the Padres this offseason? Someone will pay the price, and with GM A.J. Preller still treasured by owner Peter Seidler, not to mention on the contract to 26, manager Bob Melvin could take the full. I don't think Melvin's going anywhere. Bench coach Ryan Flaherty would be among the favorites to succeed him. I don't think so. Will there be any other repercussions? The Padres will have their hands full trying to explain this debacle to their fans and convince several players things will turn around when they quietly ask to be traded. Then they must decide whether to get something for outfielder Juan Soto before he's eligible for free agency after the 24 season. Couple of things about the Padres. This is what I heard from Mike Francesa. He was on SNY about a month ago, and he said that the Padres have all kinds of problems with this network TV deal that they had, and it fell apart. And so they don't have the money that they had before. So they might not be able to afford a guy like Juan Soto who's going to be looking for $400 million and probably like a 14-year deal. And from what he had said, he said that Juan Soto was not too happy there in San Diego. A lot of friction there with all those players. There's no leadership from that group. That's my opinion. There's not a lot of leadership in that group. Who else is on the hot seat this final month? Yankees GM Brian Cashman was the first of his 4-year contract. This safe, you believe that, and wants to retain manager Aaron Boone. Yet its owner Hal Steinbrenner's call, and if the Yankees continue to plummet with their recent call-ups of baby bombers, Boone could be gone. Skadoosh. The Mets are expected to let their new president of baseball operations make the call on manager Buck Showalter after already cleaning house in the front office this past week with the firings of Pro Scout director Jeff Lubow, farm director Kevin Howard, performance director Jim Cavallini, and baseball development director Brian Hayes. According to Peter Gammons, if you know Peter Gammons, he's with ESPN and a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. He had said within the next 2 weeks the Mets will announce who the new player of baseball operations is going to be. So just keep your eye out. It's probably going to be David Stearns. Here we go. Former Brewers GM David Stearns still is the heavy favorite to become the new president of baseball operations, although rumors persist that the Boston Red Sox could be in the mix. In either case, GM Billy Epler will stay aboard. Angels owner Artie Moreno has not decided whether to retain GM Perry Minasian, who has 1 year left on his deal, or manager Phil Nevin, whose contract expires after the season. I would expect Nevin will take the fall. Nevin's going to take the fall. I can guarantee you that. If the Blue Jays miss the playoffs, someone's going to have to take the fall, speaking of which. And it could be manager John Schneider. Okay. The White Sox already fired Vice President Kenny Williams and GM Rick Hahn, replacing them with their assistant, Chris Getz. So they're a disaster, a complete disaster. And that old fart there, Jerry Reinsdorf, decided to sign the assistant and make the assistant the general manager. Does that make any sense? Or they've been so bad the last 2 years. And Getz confirmed the manager Pedro Grifol is safe. Wasn't that great? He did such a wonderful job, didn't he? Number 8 question. Any other expected front office and managerial changes? Well, only if it's on their own volition. But Milwaukee Brewers manager Craig Counsell is expected to step down as manager, take at least 1 year off to spend time with his kids. Yeah, okay. The Brewers desperately want him back, but he has shown no interest in a new contract. I'll expect him to be with the New York Mets. If David Stearns gets fired, if David Stearns becomes the new new president here, they'll probably say, well, we want to they'll give themselves an out to let Buck Showalter go, and Counsell would be the guy at the top of the list. Could he handle New York? That's the question. Cleveland Guardians manager Terry Francona says he likely will retire after the season because of health concerns, but has yet to make his final decision. Oh, that's too bad. Great manager, Hall of Famer. Houston Nationals manager Dusty Baker on another 1 year deal has yet to formally decide whether he wants to return for 24. He has won his 2,000 games a World Series title, and his Hall of Fame plaque is ready to go up in 2027. I mentioned about Dusty. He's very much on par with. He's a better manager than Joe Torre. I would mention that. He's a better man. Dusty's a better manager than Joe Torre was. Everywhere Dusty played and managed, his teams were good. But Joe, they were only good after he got to the Yankees. Because he wasn't good with the Mets, he wasn't good really with the Braves, he certainly wasn't good with the Cardinals. But Dusty's a Hall of Fame manager. He's great. Who will make the playoffs in the National League? Atlanta and the Dodgers could pop the bubbly now, play the rest of the season intoxicated, and still win the divisions. I wouldn't suggest that. The Brewers should be the other division winner in the NL Central. Probably. The Phillies will be the top wildcard team. The Cubs will grab, which is a surprise. The Diamondbacks are surprised, and the Marlins are surprised. A lot of surprise with the wild card. How about the American League? The Orioles, Twins, and Astros will win their respective divisions. What happened to the Rangers, folks? Tampa Bay, the Rangers, and Seattle will be the wild card teams. The scariest team may be the red-hot Mariners with their star-studded rotation. I would mention that the Mets beat them 2 out of 3 at Citi Field. So that is a big hit that the Mariners took this past weekend. Speaking of the what in the world was Cleveland doing last week? They waved the white flag at the trade deadline, and then Thursday turned around and they had $3 million in contracts for pitchers Lucas Giolito, Matt Moore, and Reynaldo Lopez. This is what happens when the smart guys want to run a ball club. The smart guys think that they can get away with stuff. The moves ripped the rug out from under the Miami Marlins, who had put in waiver claims on all 3 players, forcing the Reds to grab outfielders Harrison Bader and Hunter Renfroe when they wanted pitching help too. There was never an August 30th game that could have been more repercussions in baseball history. If the Guardians don't come back and beat the Twins in 10 innings, they drop to 7 games back and probably don't make a waiver move. Well, but with the victory, pulling them within 5 games of the Twins, they saw a unique opportunity to pounce. It's one of the strangest about faces ever seen by an ownership and front office. Oh well, Who will be the National League MVP? Well, it's all really down to two players, and that's Mookie Betts and Ronald Acuna Jr. I think that's pretty obvious. Who's the top free agent this winter after Ohtani? Let me read this. Johnny DiPoliga, who just resigned as Vice President and International Scouting Director of the Washington Nationals. Okay. It's a huge blow to the Nats, who still have yet to re-sign GM Mike Rizzo, seeking a 3-year contract. Well, who cares about that? Who cares about the Nationals? They're going to get sold anyway. That's probably why he left. How about the biggest free agent player after Ohtani? It's stupid. It's Bob Nightingale. It figures to be Chicago Cubs center fielder first baseman Cody Bellinger, the former MVP who has rebounded from 2 years of struggles with the Dodgers to be a savior with the Cubs. He entered Saturday hitting .320 with 22 homers, 81 RBIs, and .315 OPS. The price tag will be heavy, exceeding $200 million, perhaps even seeking more than $300. Be very careful with him, because he had a couple of years where he was just dreadful. The most active, most aggressive suitors are expected to be the Cubs, the Giants, the Padres, of course, and the New York Yankees. We'll see what the Yankees can get out of their own way and sign a guy that's left-handed. Hopefully, that Brian Cashman will figure out that he's got to sign left-handed hitters. What was the biggest impact of the rule changes? Sure, it's nice for 25 minutes to be shaved off, but the return of the stolen base has been wonderful for baseball. I agree. Stolen base attempts are at the highest since 2012, and the 80.2 success rate is the highest in baseball history. It's as if we're seeing the glorious return of Ricky Henderson and Vince Coleman. I love the stolen base. I'm so glad they brought that back. I mean, I'm so happy about it. And you get to see all the stolen base totals and everything else. You get to see a guy like Acuna with probably 40 home runs and 60 stolen bases. We haven't seen that since Eric Davis. What are shorter games done for baseball? Players are more well-rested heading into the pennant stretch, and there are 7 players who have appeared in every game this season compared to just 2 last year heading into September. Ronald Acuna Jr., Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Freddie Freeman, Marcus Semien, Juan Soto, Eugenio Suarez. Will there be any more rule changes next year? No, everything will be status quo in 24, and MLB is still 2 years away from perfecting the automated ball strike system. That's going to make, let me tell you something, the ball strike system is going to make umpiring worse. It's going to make it worse on the bases. Will we see Rays shortstop Wander Franco play baseball again anytime soon? Well, it certainly won't be this year. Franco is on the paid administrative leave, has 2 former complaints in the Dominican Republic against him for engaging in a relationship with a minor. That's terrible. MLB is also investigating whether he violated the league's joint domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse family. The Rays still have him under contract through 2032, owing him $174 million. But have already removed promotions and advertisements he's featured on. His future in MLB is unclear. Yep, that's true. Speaking of futures, how long will All-Star first baseman Pete Alonso be staying with the Mets? I would say, it's my opinion, he will be re-signed. But according to Bob Nightingale, the Mets engaged in trade talks involving him with the Brewers and also the Cubs for the deadline. I would mention, if you're going to trade Pete, you get their best prospects. You get Chiriot and from the Brewers, and you get Crow Armstrong from the Cubs. What would be the biggest takeaway from 23? The subtle cool reminder that winning the winter means nothing, absolutely nothing, when the summer rolls around. Ain't that the truth? Time and time again, we fall in love with teams' moves during the winter. And time again, it's nothing more than a massive letdown. Ain't that the truth? San Diego Padres around it. This is just sort of different things. The Padres candidate, Cy Young candidate Blake Snell tells USA Today he wants to stay in San Diego and he has free agency. He'll likely be the number one pitcher on the free agent market. Angels still find themselves short of staying below the luxury tax of $232 million. They need someone to claim outfielder Randall Krychek, who had $1.7 million remaining on his deal but cleared waivers. If Ohtani leaves the free agent, they will get a draft pick after the 4th round instead of following the 2nd round. Owner of the Yankees, Hal Steinbrenner, knowing how much his front office relies on analytics, says he will take a good, hard look at their analytical department to determine if household changes need to be made. He's not his father. His father would have gotten rid of everybody under the sun. Wow, this goes on, this article. Holy crap. Bob Nightingale, you got a lot to say. Well, hopefully you have some things to say in the comments section. And of course, please subscribe to the Baseball Hut too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.